A new view of addiction. We are long overdue for a new perspective, both because our understanding of the neuroscience underlying addiction has changed and because so many existing treatments simply don't work. Maya Salovitz. Having delineated what addiction is and isn't, I'd like to offer a new working definition, one I believe is truer and more powerful than its antecedents. In eschewing genetic determinism, it entails the possibility of healing. I should issue a caution, though. While more precise and more hopeful, my definition is also more ecumenical. It makes addiction's big tent even bigger. You might just find yourself under it. Addiction is a complex psychological, emotional, physiological, neurobiological, social, and spiritual process. It manifests through any behavior in which a person finds temporary relief or pleasure and therefore craves, but that in the long term causes them or others negative consequences, and yet the person refuses or is unable to give it up. Accordingly, the three main hallmarks of addiction are short-term relief or pleasure, and therefore craving, long-term suffering for oneself or others, and an inability to stop. Two things to note right away. First, my definition omits disease, which is not to say that it must exclude it. Most illnesses are best understood as complex processes manifesting a person's entire life, rather than discrete things in themselves. In the end, as with many conditions, calling addiction a disease may capture relevant aspects of it without coming close to explaining the phenomenon, let alone granting us a workable pathway to healing it at its source. Second, this definition is not restricted to drugs. The same drive that often devotes itself to substances can activate any number of behaviors, from compulsive sexual roving to pornography, from inveterate shopping to the internet, both of which habits I know well, from gaming to gambling, from any sort of binge eating or drinking to purging, from work to extreme sports, from relentless exercising to compulsive relationship seeking, from psychedelics to meditation. The issue is never the external target, but one's internal relationship to it. Are you craving and partaking of something that affords you temporary relief or pleasure, inviting or incurring negative consequences, but not giving it up? Welcome to the meeting. Free coffee in the back. If you've seen me speak on this topic, whether in person or on YouTube, you'll probably know what I'm about to ask next. I usually pause here to invite a show of hands. Who, by the definition just given, is now or ever has been addicted? No matter the audience size, virtually no one's hand ever stays lowered, except, I like to jest, for the occasional liars. That is how downright normal addictions are in our culture today. I invite you, fearless listener, to put yourself to the same test, with or without the hand raising. Of course, not all addictions are created equal, except in the broadest of broad strokes. My HIV and hepatitis C-ridden patients in the downtown East Side surely stand apart from most of us in the degrees of suffering that hurled them into their habits, in the extent to which their dependencies dominate their lives, and, too, in the dire consequences their habits visit upon them. This is to say nothing about the diminished inner or outer resources available to them, often for socioeconomic and racialized reasons not of their creation. They differ also in the degrees of ostracization and punishment society has inflicted and continues to inflict on them. These acute differences of degree do matter, and we should not flatten or erase them. But they do not change the fact that the addiction process has certain intrinsic features known to all who live it. It spares no one, not even people at the top. That includes those whose destructive habits, in our culture's topsy-turvy value system, are spun as success. Nor do these differences obviate the fact that most of us normal citizens bear far more resemblance than we'd be inclined to admit with those we deride or pity for their more severe or glaring dependencies. It's not even a fine line that separates us, the upstanding, from them, the downtrodden. It's a made-up one.